Oh my goodness, it's the live stream. Hello everyone. Did I go live? Did it work? Did I unmute? That's the most important thing. If you are watching this back, this is just our little pre-show where we hang out. We don't edit it out anymore because YouTube doesn't let us. But you can click in the description and there will be a timestamp that will say like 10 minutes, 15 minutes, whatever, however long we've waffled on for. And then that will take you to the start of the Abu Dhabi preview, which this is. So Connor says we've got picture and sound. Maria says it's alive. Now hang on, is the stream it or am I it? I don't mind. Uncle Steve's in there looking after the live chat and the broadcast as well. And we are really excited for this final race. I may come across as having more energy than I might normally have at 7:20, but that is because I am an idiot who woke up at 1 p.m. And in the context of me waking up at 1 p.m. is that my daughter's big Christmas concert at her school, where my wife is the choir conductor and puts it all together. So a very big event to them. Okay, so it's very, very important. I have to be there. Not my thing. I don't have a performing arts bone in my body. But Maria's insisting it's a reference. I'll try not to be offended. Hello, James, as well. He's popping in. Another reason we do this and have the waffle is just so people can, come on. The doors open at 7:15, but the performance starts at 7:30. You know, it's that kind of thing. So, yeah, it's a big deal, this concert. I am not into it. For me, it is a grind. It's a religious service. I think my daughter's in earshot, but I don't care. It's a religious service. So it's like, okay, so now I'm suddenly in a church, effectively, without my knowledge. And then there's a sing-along, which is like, oh my God, sing-along, that's crazy. The performance, the energy is absolutely wild. The teachers and the students have done a great job. But I got there with about a second to spare, joining the back of the queue. It was a long queue. I joined the back of the queue just as they were being let in. But I woke up at 1 p.m. and it was a 1:30 performance. So I was like, oh my God. Right, and I only got woken up by the family Google Calendar reminder of this Christmas concert. So last night I went out and I was being healthy. I was out in the evening. I was being healthy, for goodness sake. I was out in a tennis tournament, finished at 10 o'clock. And then it turns out this team that had invited me are like just the biggest bunch of drunks ever. And I got dragged along by the bigger kids. It's not my fault. And I had work to do. So then I ended up finishing work at like 2 a.m., having had a skinful of drinks after a long tennis tournament. And I just passed out fully on the sofa because I got to 2 o'clock in the morning. I went, oh, I'm drunk and it's late. How can I avoid waking my wife up and getting into trouble? Fully sofa. They forgave me. I got a pass, but they were surprised to find out that I woke up at 1 p.m. So I am not feeling very adulty today. Thankfully, we have a real grown-up here in the form of Matt Trumpets. Hello, Matt.
Hello. Google Calendar,
Google
huh?
Calendar.
That's kind of like being at work and having a conversation with your coworker who's like, oh, by the way, what are you doing tonight for your anniversary? Like half an hour before the shops close. And you're like, one of us is organized, not me.
Oh,
yeah,
I heard there was a Father's Day. I woke up a little bit later and I heard panicked voices from downstairs. Then I heard the distinctive sound of the front door opening and then coming back in, no, and then arguments and wrapping paper sounds. I'm like, huh. Like, Dad, we did Father's Day stuff. Yeah. No, but there was one where me and my wife both forgot the anniversary, just because, you're busy. You both completely forgot it. And there was a point mid-afternoon where we had a phone conversation and neither of us knew if the other one was mad that they'd forgotten. And it turns out, no, we'd both forgotten. So we kind of, we got away with it. Alex is saying dragged, quote unquote. Matt, the bigger kids made me do it. They're in this...
Always.
To be clear,
always their fault.
I play for the 5th tier tennis team at this club, right? That's that, and I'm not one of the best players on that 5th tier team. Now, this was the 4th tier team inviting me out, so obviously I'm the rookie.
You're on their radar.
Exactly.
You're on their radar.
I'm on their radar. I've been invited.
They're recruiting you.
Literally, they must have been so desperate. They must have gone down the list so far before they got to me. But yeah, then of course I've got to get in with the big kids. Connor says, well, if all your friends went to a tennis tournament, would you? Yeah, it doesn't have the same ring to it. Yeah, it's like if all your friends jumped off a cliff, would you? And my answer, as an ex-soldier is yes. So we did cliff jumping. They all stopped, went off a cliff. I didn't want to. I didn't want to at all. And actually one of the sergeants, he went, guys, you have the right to say no. It takes a bigger man to walk away. And everyone just like laughed at him and jeered at him. And I was like, ha, 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 ha. Yeah, I also find it funny. And I jumped off that damn cliff. And it's one of the worst things I've ever done. Cliff jumping's terrible. Someone who would never jump off a cliff is Christina Lee Mace. Christina's here. Hello, Christina.
Hello, hello. And I can say I have had the opportunity to jump off of cliffs because summer camp and all that. And I did not.
You didn't. You walked away.
I did
you
not.
refused. So
I refused.
Your mother must be very proud. My Christina.
Well, I refused because I don't like swimming. So,
yeah.
it was more the jumping in the water than the jumping off the cliff part that got me. But same end result. I was dry. I was happy chilling on the boat. All good.
So you also don't like beaches.
I don't like beaches. The sand gets everywhere.
don't
Although
like
I live next to the beach and I
Yeah.
still go.
What
so
a waste. We did walk on the beach. I've seen you walking on a beach, and you looked physically uncomfortable being too
it
near
was
the sea.
unpleasant.
Yeah. Are you scared of Aquaman or something? Is that?
No.
It feels like we're missing some lore here.
I'm not good at swimming. I sink so quickly and then I get cold and then you have to dry and it's just not worth it.
So the cliff jumping swimming thing is horrendous, and I was not prepared for it. So firstly, this cliff had a big jutting out thing, and they said it's very, very important that you take like a good run up to clear this. There was no health and safety here, and I just got so nervous that I just didn't. I just stepped off it. And they said I was like a centimetre away from this jutting out thing. I just went, oh, I know. And you go, oh. So I went in and they say, obviously, put your feet tight. So you make yourself like a pencil so that you go deep in and make a low contact point. What you're not prepared for, what no one warned me about, was once you finish going downwards, you look up, and I've never seen that much non-air above me in my life. And you are right to be scared of the swimming part, because I didn't hold my breath or anything. I didn't like take a deep breath. I just kept swimming up, and the sky is not approaching. It's like you're swimming up for a long, long time. And there was definitely a point I was like, well, I'm out of air. So, well, what do we do now? So what's the deal now? Horrible. You've done it as well, Matt, have you?
Yeah, I mean, to an extent. The thing is, it was so long ago. We did, when I was a high school senior, we did like a float down the Chattahoochee River in inner tubes. And now Chattahoochee is like a big, wide river. And we got to a point where there was like cliff jumping. And so swam across probably 30 plus feet. So 10 plus meters, like not super high. And I jumped off, but I had at the time my t-shirt wrapped around my head. And so no problem, come up and my t-shirt is gone, which was fine, except for I had about another 4 hours baking in direct sun. And I have never been so sick from being sunburned in my life. By the time I got home, not only was I hungover, I also had a really bad case of sun poisoning, which is the only time I've ever gotten that. It was so miserable, honestly.
Yeah, and you've got no like melanin either. So me and Christina are a little bit more protected.
I mean, I think I have more than your average Caucasian, but not as much as, yeah.
Mark says spread as soon as you hit the water so you don't go too deep. All right, well, where were you in 2002, Mark? 23 years later, that information is useless. Quick thing I wanted to talk about before we get the stream going, as Christina sips on what looks like neat tequila. No.
It's water. I hate to disappoint you.
Yeah. You and your clean living lifestyle has been a constant disappointment. But at least I have Matt. So if I've got you and Matt on a project, it kind of balances out, doesn't it? And we've got you to throw into whatever random car we have available as well, which helps. Because you're one of those people you can drive, but you don't drive.
Correct.
So it's like an adventure. It's like, well, me and Matt are too drunk to drive. Christina, in you go.
It's
and then
great.
Crunch, grind, crunch. No, you've all got automatics, haven't you? So yeah, the last thing I wanted to talk about is something I think fathers of daughters specifically, I think, can relate to, which is my daughter treats all of my stuff now, she's 13, as her stuff. So my possessions are just an extension of her possessions. My old army gear is her pajamas. Anything that I have outgrown becomes around the house top. But the thing that is irking me the most is in restaurants. In restaurants, there is a pregnant pause every time our food arrives, and I forget about it when I order. I order the thing I want, and trust me, I have good food ordering game, where my daughter will look at my food and decide if my food is better than her food. And you must have had this with Lily, Matt. And I can see her little face. I can see her little face going, oh no, I ordered the wrong thing. Because she is just thinking about what she would like to eat. And that is the wrong decision in a restaurant. What you have to think about is, what could a chef at this level of restaurant prepare better than I could at home? So there's no point doing pasta. There's no point doing carbonara, because carbonara out of a jar tastes the same as carbonara at a fancy restaurant. But can I cook a perfect steak? No, I can't. So a fillet steak, that's a perfect thing to have out. Can I make a crispy pizza base? Can I make a fantastic crispy pizza? No, I can't. So if you're in Rome, order that. That's how I order. That's why I'm the best at ordering. But my daughter is terrible at it. And then it will land, and she'll go, and I see her little face. And she's like that. And I'm like, oh. And I just melt, Matt. I crack. And I go, would you like to swap or share dinners? And she just immediately is just like, yep.
Yeah,
so I'm stuck with whatever
I
crap she orders.
Yeah. I mean, there's always a strategy of, are you sure you want to order that? But I always lucked out because I had more appetite than either my wife or my daughter. So sharing was always part of it. We would always share a taste, and that would usually be enough. But,
that's the tactic we've had to go through now. Like now, when I'm ordering, I end up going, well, should we just kind of do it tapa style, like Spanish style, like pick some starters and some appetizers? So, because I have to, why do I have to gamify my restaurant order? It's because of that little tiny teenager. Teenage girls are terrible, Cristina. I assume you were the same.
Well, no, because my dad and I had open communication, and we discussed why we were ordering things.
No, we don't have that.
And what we thought looked good, et cetera, et cetera. See, what it sounds like here is that you have a parenting issue on your hand where you did not impart this wisdom onto your child.
That's a good point.
And now you're reaping the consequences.
I failed to teach them how to order well.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
This sounds like a consequence of your own actions, I have to say.
Yeah, I mean, you really should be if you're going out to a nice enough restaurant to care. Ordering has to be like a complete strategy session with everyone involved, so you hit all of the things that you personally would like to have a taste of.
Yeah. I've now got to think of like, what's the second best option? What's the third best option of what everyone is ordering? And it also highlights the lack of communication with my wife as well. So, and her ordering tactic is worse because the last thing she will ever think about when she enters a restaurant, and I can say this because she's out, is what she's going to eat. Like in no part of her mind, as we're planning to go out, as we're getting dressed, no part of her mind is like, oh, I fancy this kind of food. And then she is completely stunned, even on the third approach of the poor wait staff who say, any ideas, guys? She knows she wants wine.
I was going to say the wine is really the only important thing there. Once you get enough of that going, it'll be fine. An order will happen organically.
Margarita comes out of her mouth before her butt even touches the seat. But no, she doesn't know what kind of Italian dish she would like.
Yeah. Well, but on the other hand, you've known her long enough. You could make a few tactical suggestions to make sure you get something that you also would like to taste.
Yeah. Anyway, that's just a little rant I wanted to get off my chest because that's how I missed out on a fillet steak the last time we went out for dinner.
Sad.
I should never have had a family. All I wanted to do in that smoky bar decades ago was talk to the pretty jazz singer lady. It's all I wanted. I'm a simple man with simple needs, and now I can't even have the steak I ordered. And the picture keeps changing because I put my hand up, and Zoom thinks I'm asking a question. All right, cool. Well, there's some Formula One to be getting on with. Don't moan at me. I said right at the beginning that you could click the little tab and go straight onto the show. Yes, I'm doing this because I'm a failed radio presenter and I need an outlet to whinge about my family life. It got ripped away from me. All right, here we go. Does anyone care about F1? Is everyone locked in for the season? I should probably record the show as well. Yeah, go on, I'll go ahead. It's been a while since I forgot to hit record on a show. Absolutely heartbreaking. Nothing is more heartbreaking in podcasting than you finish a show and realize you didn't hit record. I have 5 backup recordings. 5. Of varying quality, and then even Steve takes one off YouTube now, so that's 6 in total. Hello, live chat. How many people have we got watching here? A few. Oh, you are a dedicated crew. There's dozens of you. You are listening to Missed Apex Podcast. We live F1. Welcome to Missed Apex Podcast. I'm your host, Richard Reddy, but my friends call me Spanners. So, let's be friends. Well, this is it. The final race of 2025. Whatever happens on Sunday, it will make F1 history. We'll obviously talk about that 3-way title fight. I think the first one in over a decade. We'll go through all the championship maths because it's been killing me for a couple of weekends. And I want to make sure that I know when I see the cars on track, when I see that timing tower, who it's benefiting, who is currently winning that driver's championship. We'll also talk about which drivers could help other drivers. We also have some news this week. We have all the Red Bull driver transfer stuff. Boo. And we've had a lot of emails in the last couple of weeks. For some reason, I don't know why, but we've got a bunch and they're nice. So we'll do a little bit of a mini mailbag. So relax in your car or sofa or desk or the walk you're on and listen to Missed Apex Podcast. I'm going to make a claim here, the most downloaded F1 podcast where the host does not collect a paycheck. That's my claim, and I'm sticking to it because we are an independent podcast produced in the podcasting shed with the kind support of our patrons and partners. We aim to bring you a race review before your Monday morning commute. We might be wrong, but we're first. It would probably be better if I did this by myself. I'm the best one. But we are joined by Matt Trumpets. Hello, Matt.
Inconveniently inserting facts into your vibe-free speculation since 2016.
It has been 12 years of me going, well, I reckon this. And you're like, yeah, but what about this, like, statistic set and pattern of behavior and facts? And you do ruin F1 for me quite a lot.
I ruin so many things for so many people that way. It is one of my few genuine joys in life.
Which is why we're going to balance out the panel with someone who goes on style and vibes and a little sprinkling of information. Cristina Lee Mace. Hello, Cristina.
Hello, hello. I would like to give everyone a word of warning that I do have Squeaks McGee, the cat, on my lap right now.
Yeah.
Theoretically, he could nap throughout this entire episode, but theoretically, could he also come and interrupt all of our thoughts because his opinions are more important than all 3 of ours? Yes, absolutely.
So for context, Cristina thinks that her cat is people, but also something that you pick up on. No, don't even answer. I don't want to hear the counter argument that your cat is people, but you do look at the people more in F1 than perhaps the likes of me and Matt. And so I think growing up, we never really got the insights into the people. We never got this level of interest in like what their thoughts are, who their family members are. Like, ask me, who was Gerhard Berger's girlfriend? No idea. How did Riccardo Patrese feel on a season finale? No idea. Whereas now the media is so saturated. And I think, Cristina, that's where you take an interest in that. You've come into a world where these drivers are personalities. I came into a world where F1 drivers were essentially ballast.
Yes. And I think it's just a much more interesting time in the sport because you can connect with people on that human level a lot better than you can with statistics. In their interviews, it's a weird balance because back in the day, they were a lot less filtered. We were getting a lot more unhinged behavior, I would say. But nowadays, it feels like the comments are a lot more earnest, even if they are filtered. And I think that that's a really fun thing to get to play around with. You're getting a better look at the psychology behind athletes and how they deal with these different stressors. We can see that so clearly in our 3 championship contenders that are left. And no doubt we're going to talk about it a lot, but it's striking how different they all handle the stress and the pressure.
Yeah, I suppose in the olden days, they're going and driving race cars. Occasionally a microphone would get put in their face, whereas now they know it's part of the day-to-day that they're going to get asked these questions. So they almost have to develop what's my style, a philosopher style, how to deal with those questions. And I think, by the way, McLaren have made absolutely the right decision to restrict the press for Lando Norris and Oscar Piastri. They did the one on a Thursday, which is just the official F1 one, and no other media has access to them before the race, which is crazy. I assume the post-qualifying interviews will be an exception to that. But yeah, I think the right call, Matt.
Yeah, so there are FIA mandated appearances that you can only skip if you've been injured or sick. And those are the ones they will do. But anything beyond that, it seems like McLaren is like, you know what, we're just going to let them get on. We're going to try and create a little extra bubble for them. But I want to get on like the whole thing of the drivers being, and they are, more so than the cars and engineers, much to my annoyance, more so than the sport itself. It's really the drivers that make the money for everyone. They are now what is being sold to the world. And this is true across all pro sports. But I'm old enough to remember exactly when it changed in my world, which was the 1980 Olympics, where suddenly, whoever was covering, I think it was ABC, but I might be wrong. Suddenly, instead of watching 37 hours of the most obscure sports you've ever heard of, you'd have track, and every single person in the race would have a 5-hour biopic about them.
Yeah.
During which time I would be like, but like, could we not be watching sports while you're telling me about this person's childhood and their difficult, path to where they are now? I don't care about that. I want to see the racing. And it just spread from there like wildfire, because it turns out most people actually do want to know that stuff, and I'm the exception.
Mark in our Patreon Discord says, drivers used to be a helmet that sometimes had a face. Now they're actually people. Indeed they are. And in fact, Matt talking about the race engineers, the Beyond the Grid podcast, it had Ocon and his race engineer.
Laura Muller.
A really good interview, actually. So I assume you listened to that immediately.
Not yet.
Oh, no. Go
because
listen
it's
to it.
busy season for me, but it's on my list of things that I actually will listen to.
Oh my God. In fact, like, what are you doing listening to Missed Apex? Just go and listen to that interview. Come back to us later. But yeah, so because Cristina thinks of these people as people, how must they be feeling as we get onto the eve of the championship?
My goodness. I think it's clear that Max is sort of business as usual, as he always is. And at the end of the day, he's been through this pressure a number of times. And I think after living through 2021 and that intense season of how it was, no, it's not just that he has to have an excellent day on that last race. He's tied on points with his championship contender. Like this one round, this time this year in comparison to 2021, I'm sure is a little bit less pressure, just because it's not, oh, you just have to finish ahead of Lewis. It's no, you have to have the perfect weekend, which is just a different style of pressure, I would say. But when it comes to, the others, I think that's where it gets a little bit more complicated, because it's their first time being in this pressure cooker.
Well, at this level, certainly, I think Piastri and Max have won championships before they got to F1. The interesting thing to me about Max, and the thing that really works to your advantage, is that that a lot of what happens is not in his control.
Yeah.
And if you are competing in a space where all you got to do is the best you can do, it's a much simpler psychological task. But also there are those people, and I think you know them too, Spanners, from racing. There are some people who would always rather be chasing and catching. But then there's some people, if you say, I'll let you start out in the lead, and they're like, oh, yeah, fine. Doesn't bother me at all. And I think Max is also one of those kind of people too, more so than Norris and Piastri. I don't really quite have a beat on. It was a little bit hard to see.
So, I mean, not just racing. I've done a lot of sport where you have title run-ins. And as you get to the end of the season, mathematically, someone has it in their hands and someone else doesn't. And if you're relying on favors, so like, even if you win, well, the other team has to lose by 7 points or 7 goals so that the goal difference means on countback you win. When you're in those kind of situations and all you have to do is win, like Norris does now, or all he has to do is podium, it's even worse. I think that's the most pressure, because it's yours. When it's out of your hands a little bit, you go into the day, you go into the final, go, wow, I could do the best I could, and it won't matter. And also, you could do the worst you could, and your rival got enough of a result anyway. So I think if Verstappen and Piastri DNF or crash into someone, and then Norris finishes third anyway, because that's all Norris needs to do, they go, well, actually, it was out of my hands. Nothing I did would have improved that. So I really think the big pressure is on Lando Norris.
Yeah, because of the three of them, he's the only one that can actively lose what he currently has. And the other two can only win if he or McLaren, because let's face it, there's more than one possibility in that basket of possibility right there. If either of them do something wrong, then he's lost it. So that is a lot more pressure. I think on the other hand, it also means that your target is a lot bigger. If you go into the last round with a huge lead, okay, so you also walk in saying, I don't have to beat either of the two guys that are chasing me. And in fact, really my maximum outcome needs to be E3, which is going to be really pretty standard for McLaren around this track, barring unexpected safety cars or accidents in the first turn, etc.
Mm-hmm. I think what's going to be really interesting for Norris, yes, dealing with the fact that he can lose the championship for himself, but also we've heard from him and from others just that he is his own biggest critic. Like he is one of those people that puts himself under the pressure cooker more so than any other situation. And when you have someone with that specific mentality, it can play one of two ways. It can be that you overcook yourself to the point where nothing is going to calm you down, but it also means that you do live in this almost perpetual state of being mildly stressed by yourself to the point where you're going, if you're constantly stressed, what is one more added piece to bring you up to that level?
I've just realized I'm in a crew of people who in real life have seen me backstage before going on to like a live panel or a show, and I'm winding up every single situation that could go wrong, and to be honest, I think sometimes that can be because you care, and so the more you care, the more you're panicking yourself. That just means that you are completely in that moment and in that zone. So Verstappen might be actually at a slight disadvantage because the hunger is going to be less. Lando Norris is trying to keep it cool. He said it's not going to affect my life. BS, calling absolute BS on that. You absolutely want to be world champion. If you genuinely don't care whether you're going to be world champion on Sunday evening or not, then you're absolutely in the wrong sport and you're wasting a place that could have been mine. I definitely would have been there had I had your parents. Definitely. That's the only difference between me and Lando Norris. So I don't believe him. I believe that winning this championship will be incredibly important to him. With Max Verstappen, there is this element of it genuinely will be fine. Like if he doesn't win, he's already won 4. He might have opportunities again. He can end his career as a 4-time world champion. That's fine. People, all the multiple champions had championships that they could have won and didn't. So I think that might be a tiny bit of a disadvantage for Verstappen.
I don't know. I mean, you see Max, the way he drives the car, it's always to get the most out of it. I think the advantage or disadvantage he has is that if it's a win for him or he really doesn't care about the outcome. So I don't think there's a psychological downside because it's out of his hands. He can only do what he can do with the car that they give him. And he knows exactly what the car should do. And he knows exactly what the car is currently doing right now. And any difference between those two is going to be Red Bull's fault and not his. And if it's not enough car for him to win, then he's really not going to care. I think he's not going to care about whether he finishes second or third to Piastri, which sort of creates an interesting dynamic.
Peter has just angered me in the Patreon chat, and he said, I reckon everyone being so excited about this coming to the last round will make F1 seriously consider a playoff system. No! America, hands off. It's a league table. The league table does not lie. Look across the Atlantic at what NASCAR faced the last 2 years out of their playoff system. They are scrambling now to fight for a full season format. Playoffs are awful. America has always got this wrong with sport. Peter's saying to clarify, I don't want that. No, you put it out in the universe. Yeah, you put it out in the universe. If it happens, it is specifically Peter's fault. Whew. Sorry. Now, to put into context how things might go over the weekend, and Matt's going to give us just a little bit of a recap of what's happened in the last couple of seasons here, and then we can kind of piece together, and we can kind of, what do you call it? Understand.
Yeah, we can kibitz.
Manifest. We can manifest the
about
results. Go on, I'll hand it over to you, Matt.
Yeah. All right. So after last week, I went back 2 seasons, and I'm really glad that I did because there's some very interesting things that happened. I'll start with 2024, where you had Norris qualifying on pole, followed by Piastri, who's about 2/10 off of him. Verstappen only qualified 5th. But I think in terms of the championship, he didn't need much more than that to win last year. And then in the race, it was actually Norris, Sainz, and Leclerc atop the podium. Verstappen was 6th, 5th or 6th, and Piastri finished 10th. And that's because he and Max had contact exiting turn 1 after the start. Specifically, Max launched it up the inside, and his right front contacted Piastri's left after Piastri gave him a pretty good squeeze on the apex. Piastri was sent to the back of the grid with damage. Max wound up with a 10-second penalty, and Norris won the race pretty easily from that point on. So it's not an unknown thing for the 3 of them to get in each other's way, especially if they are starting all 3 of them in the top 5. So I love this. It's a short run. It's like 367 meters, maybe. It's a short run to turn 1, but it's a wide turn, and there's multiple lines available. So you always get someone willing to maybe chance it around the outside. The year before, I think it was Leclerc. Cristina?
Yeah, well, we have also had how many instances, not just of overtaking in those tight corners in the slow turns, but we also get lockups here pretty consistently. Like that was the other thing that we were seeing a lot of. And so from this being a track where you can overtake, from a track where it being you can have lockups, it just invites so much chaos. It's one of those races where you're going, you know what, I understand why this is a championship finale, because drivers actually have a lot of opportunities they can take advantage of, and also a lot of moments where they can lose out. And I think that's a really exciting prospect for a 3-way battle, especially with drivers that we know have made mistakes at this track prior.
I'm crying in Interlagos, so I'm gonna let what Cristina said stand, but
They're both good tracks to have as championship finals. I love Interlagos as well. Give me anything with an elevation change, and I will love it that little bit more. But you can't say that Abu Dhabi does a bad job.
I can't believe you just said like, oh, there's fine layouts on both sides. I can't believe you just did that between Interlagos.
Both sides. The circuit.
Matt.
Well, I will say this because I also, like I said, I went back to 23 when McLaren had a slightly less competitive car. And in the race, it was Verstappen, Leclerc, and Russell, who I think might be one of our spoilers for the race, if there is to be a spoiler. And Piastri finished sixth, and Norris finished 5th. But Norris was actually fighting Max for the lead, and after a pit stop, he wound up having an incident with Sergio Perez that wound up with him being sent off track and Perez getting eventually dinged for a 5-second penalty for being naughty at the apex.
We got a reasonable comment here from Jimmy, who his next comment afterwards is brackets still not upset, but he said, hello, Jimmy G. Says, is one of the topics today about whether the race director will disregard all options in the regulations to finish the race if there's a late safety car or not? We do have to discuss the late safety car issue. We may as well do it now because Jimmy's brought it up. Last time, and I was speaking to Meg, I've spoken to Magnus, a lot of newer North American fans who've come into the sport. They said that had Abu Dhabi 2021 finished under the safety car, they would have thought it was a huge anticlimax. And I'm like, oh God, people who are new to the sport were so excited with how that race ended that I've almost turned around and gone, oh, okay, I guess good play for the business side of it. Horrible from a sporting side of it. Now, if they had been battling and Verstappen had been catching Lewis Hamilton and then the safety car had come out and they'd finished under the safety car, you go, well, yeah, Verstappen's been robbed of the chance to go and get him. I think for me, it's the fact that it was over. We were watching the race go towards the end anyway. It had fizzled down. There'd been excitement. And now we were like, okay, get ready. Hamilton's about to get crowned for his 8th world title. So when that safety car came out, it wasn't interrupting anything. It created like a whole new thing. And for me as a long-time F1 fan, finishing under the safety car, it's fine. At that time, at that critical moment for the business with the new fans, it wasn't fine for F1. And they created that whole mess. But what will happen this time, Matt?
I don't. Right. So let's be really clear, because what you've left out of your excellent summary,
nothing,
is that no. This comes in really on your side, I believe. Is that what was different about it was that when they brought out the safety car, they cleared some, but not all of the lap cars. And specifically, they only cleared the lap cars between Verstappen and Hamilton, which is where those of us who watched the sport a long time really took offense, because it's going to be one, it's going to be the other, but giving Max the opportunity to be on fresh tires and then giving him no one to have to pass on the way to Lewis, which is the price you pay when you pit under a safety car and people stay out. Either everyone gets cleared and everyone gets a chance for new tires, or the lap cars stay in because you only have so many laps left and not enough to follow standard safety car protocol. And the combination of the two meant that everyone who knew anything was watching was like, oh, this is over. Max has won it, because there's no way Lewis can defend on tires that old.
But also, a lot of people, when the safety car came out, were like, well, it's over. Lewis has won it, because there wasn't enough time to do the standards or what they've been doing with the clearing the lap cars, which I disagree with anyway. But, by the by, like, you will stay out. That's the reason Hamilton didn't pit, because there just wasn't any time to clear it. They had to do this very strange thing. I actually told myself before the show, I was like, whatever you do, do not get sucked in to a 2021 chat. Don't do it. And Jimmy, you ruined it. You can go and sit in the corner with Peter and his playoffs chat. But Cristina, you were a sort of a newer fan at that time. What do you think should happen now if there's a kind of similar safety car situation?
Well, there's not really a question, because 2021 exposed gaps in the regulations that needed to be closed up. That was one of the reasons why it was even possible for the race director to have this option. A lot of the times throughout the regulations, it says that the race director may do this or that. It gives them options, but that loophole has been closed off. It is no. These are the procedures you have to follow. So we would never end up in that situation again. Now, could we get another screwy situation with liberties being taken because of another gap in the regulations? Yes, that document is filled with moments that definitely could be exploited or looked at and been like, maybe. But we're not going to get a repeat of 2021. It's one of those things that's haunting people. But
yeah,
it was one moment in time at the end of the day that is not... that specific situation won't repeat itself.
Maria says, "Oh, Cristina, you sweet child." It does feel like, I know what Maria's getting at. It does feel like we're going to get something extraordinary like that. And I think the pure sport element of it is kind of gone, because everyone who's going to make a decision has it in mind how it's going to play out in this modern world. Like you go, oh, if we do that, people are going to be insane in this direction. Oh, if we do that, people are going to be insane in the other direction. Then you've got papaya rules as well to throw into that, where they go, oh, we've got a big decision to make. The classic one, which we'll hit on in a bit, will be if Piastri needs to give up his P3, a podium, to give Lando Norris a win. And everyone is so hyper aware now that someone's going to get it wrong. And in Qatar, where in the interests of fairness and going, oh no, we've got a split-second decision. If we bring them both in, it handicaps Norris. If we leave Piastri out and bring Norris in, it handicaps Piastri. What do? Freeze. Kill them both. It's like break both the toys of the children. One child is going to have a broken toy, but if we break both the toys, then they're both equally happy. So yeah, I think the chances of us drifting towards a very normal, boring end of race is very low.
But not zero.
But not zero.
Decidedly non-zero.
But not zero. Everyone could have put together all of these think pieces, and then we have a race that, for the three championship contenders, completely boring, completely routine. They're just cruising wherever they are on track, and we get a winner. What if the chaos comes from, P6 to P9 in the Constructors' Championship, who are all within reach of each other and fighting for prize money and wind tunnel time. What if that's the actual big battle that happens?
So,
Riddle me that.
So actually, this is what I want to talk about here is, should any of the drivers either help the title contenders or even consider what is happening? So Cristina, my worst case scenario is that Lewis Hamilton in 17th, already with one eye on the beach, accidentally causes a safety car that robs Max of the championship, because that would be wild. No one would let Lewis Hamilton off the hook there and say, like, the "did you do it on purpose" would go on into eternity.
I mean, it feels like that's just where everyone's headspace is at the end of the day. That is what I'm not looking forward to the end of this race, primarily because it means I'm going to have to go and moderate a comment section filled with at least one fan base, most likely multiple, of people who have just decided that everything is a conspiracy, that everything is scripted, that these choices are being made with a specific outcome in mind. And you're kind of sitting there going, at the end of the day, all of these athletes, including their teams, are going out on track with the goal of doing the best that they possibly can with the tools that they have. Sometimes they will get it right, and sometimes they'll get it wrong, because this is actually an incredibly difficult thing to do. So yeah, if Lewis Hamilton goes out there and has a typical, what is turning out to be the typical end of Ferrari 2025 experience, and is unfortunate, tragic, and something we would all rather forget, most likely, yeah, some sort of conspiracy is going to come out. Everyone's probably going to toss up their hand and be like, gosh darn it, Ferrari, just when we thought we couldn't Ferrari anymore, you've done it again.
I'll be front of the queue. That'll be me.
Exactly. But at the end of the day, you do have to try and separate what is our personal narratives based off of what we've taken in, what details we're remembering from a very long season, and try to separate that almost from factually what is happening.
No.
And that's really difficult.
I refuse. I refuse to even try.
So there's kind of interesting things. I think what you tend to see in normal situations is that, like, your friends are your power unit buddies. So like Williams and Mercedes will be more inclined to be courteous. I'm going to use the word courteous.
But it's like NASCAR.
To McLaren differentially to Red Bull and vice versa. I mean, God help either Norris or Piastri if they come across a wild Hadjar ahead of them on merit.
Yeah.
You know, because who knows what's going to happen there. But realistically, you also have to consider that McLaren and Red Bull are far and away the fastest cars. So it's unlikely anyone's going to be in a big position to make much of a difference. I think if there's going to be a spoiler, Russell, Leclerc, Antonelli, maybe, because he has in fact done testing on this track. He's like been there. And we'll put Sainz in parentheses just because we saw him in play last week. Those are the only people who might really be in a position to cause a problem, which sort of brings us to strategy a little bit, like what could go better and worse. But holding off of that, most of the drivers simply don't want to be Latifi or anywhere near that. I mean, think about it. Even Glock, who did absolutely nothing wrong, he caught a huge amount of flack, right? Right? So you see what I'm saying? No driver wants to be that driver at all.
And that goes on forever. And there's so much evidence that the Glock was shouldn't have been there in the first place. He was a complete passenger. It was a complete coincidence. That you can look at his drivers on boards, but still I get comments in my X replies, Twitter replies going, yeah, well, what about when Glock handed Hamilton the championship?
Yeah, and the only counterexample I could think of would be like Petrov when they pitted Alonso and he came up behind Petrov and then couldn't pass him. But for the most part, you don't want to be that driver that actively interferes in a championship. On the other hand, based kind of on personal experience, there is definitely, you can definitely hold people up while looking like the model sports person, because that actually happened to me in an iRacing event one time that was being commentated on. I actually had my teammate followed closely by someone else, held up the second person, and comms was like, look at how sportsmanlike that person's teammate is being. And I was like, well, yeah, you know, I mean, there was a line and I stayed on the correct side of it, but you can still fiddle a little bit at the margins.
Confession, in an iRacing season finale, and I've done this multiple times, I've given Kyle a toe in qualifying, sacrificed my own qualifying to give Kyle a toe so that he can beat Danny, because I want people from the south to beat, you know, the Northerners. So I couldn't stand a Northerner getting a third title in a row, I think it was. And yeah, I tend to give him a hand. And there are drivers on the grid that have their little alliances. So Alonso hates anyone British. I don't know what happened to him as a baby. I think like some British person stole his toys or whatever. But yeah, he definitely loves Max as well. I think a subtle thing, like if he finds himself on a long strategy goal hanging for a safety car and he's ahead on track, I think Max will get a very easy bye past, and maybe Norris less of a bye. And Piastri, he'll look at Piastri and he'll have like an international chart where it's like, Max not British, Lando British, and then Piastri in the middle, Australian, hang on, does that count? No, he's fine, not British, let him through. And so you go, there are drivers who have those kind of allegiances. You go, well, George Russell can't stand Max. Well, from a racing point of view, I'm sure they could go and have dinner together. But there are going to be these little subtle differences in, do you dive off track or do you kind of go, well, I'm doing my own race, I'll let you buy when I can. So you got that kind of subtle scenario, blue flags, all the way up to if I'm in third place and I'm the person who decides if Verstappen wins another title, you have to go, oh, I'm feeling a vibration. Oh, no. Oh, these tyres are dead, Pete. And then you pull off the track and you go, I did it. I cost Max a title.
So our team strategist is saying in the chat, and he's not our team strategist, he's kind enough to come visit us, which we appreciate very
Caulfield.
much.
Yes. Hello, Mike.
Is saying that Alonso was actually trying to help the McLarens last week. And Mike, I know of which he speaks, which is that when he came out and ran his second stint, he ran it very slow. He ran slowly enough that it created a nice gap for the McLarens to pit into, because otherwise they might have been, he reckoned with his fancy software that he refuses to share with me at all. I'm not saying there's a holiday coming up soon that's a gift-giving holiday, but...
Has he not shared it with you? He did a live Zoom call with me and he was like, this is what it all is. And then he sent me, the executive file to load it up. So, yeah.
There you go. Yeah. That's very nice. But he reckons they could have come out 10th or 11th after their second pit stop had Alonso not been driving slowly enough to prevent graining on his tires.
I doubt that was on purpose. I doubt it.
It is an Alonso trait to go alarmingly slow, but just quick enough that no one can really get around him. He did that back at Monaco. And I can't remember, he had a very specific reason for doing it. But remember, he could have created like a 35 or 40-second gap.
That was for the
And then with like a lap to go, he finished it. But whoever he was intentionally doing it to couldn't make up what they needed to make up. Yeah,
it was for the hilarious 2 pit stop thing, wasn't it, in Monaco? Yeah, but I think it's far more likely, because I've had this thrown at me quite a lot. I think it's far more likely that Alonso was like, well, the battle I'm racing doesn't include those guys. Therefore, if I back them up, that suits me. That gives them less opportunity to undercut, overcut.
Right.
So who else is there in this? I think realistically, I don't think anyone is going to sabotage their race to help Lando Norris or Oscar Piastri. However, there are 2 allies that both those drivers might have. So there is the pit wall. So you've got Zach Brown and Stella. At some point, they may be asked to get one driver to help another driver. Cristina, how would we feel if Piastri gets that order? He's in P3. You can't win the championship. If you let Norris past, he's world champion.
Oh, if you had asked me yesterday, I might have just been like, yeah, be selfish. Just do it.
Lose your job?
That's probably what I would do in that situation of just like,
really?
No.
That's what you would do that. You have got that streak in you. Yeah.
Competitive me is a little terrifying. I had a friend who had to be like, I can't do this with you anymore because with canoeing, because I was getting that a little ridiculous and intense about it. But I saw a short clip of an interview with Ruth Boscombe this morning, last night, one of the two. And she was basically pointing out that even though it's winning the drivers' championship, it is still a team effort. And so that sort of shifted my perspective on it, where yes, drivers to a certain extent get to be selfish in this moment, but they cannot be completely selfish because it is not just their hard work that has gone into this moment. So as tough as it might be, if one of those drivers is asked to step aside so that way it benefits, yes, their teammate, it is still their teammate and the rest of that team that it would be benefiting. And that's where I kind of go, okay, yes, I get it. a team principal might have to make that call because it's not just about that one driver. It's not just about them, those two that are in the car. It's about everybody involved. And that's where you go, right, this is a team sport. It all comes back to that. It's a team sport.
It is. And lest anyone be fooled by the current nonchalance being displayed by Zach about the Drivers' Championship, forget not the hijinks that were played with both drivers to try and get Lando close enough to win last season. They can tell me all they want that it doesn't matter, but their previous actions beg to differ, although Qatar went a long way towards convincing me they might be right about it this season. No, you don't ask Piastri to do anything. If he's in third, so the classic scenario, Max is in first, Piastri's in third, Norris is in fourth.
Yeah.
If Norris is close enough, you don't ask. You just pit Piastri second. Let Norris have the undercut, and that's it. It's done. Sorry. You know, we were worried about him. His tires looked worse than yours. We'll make it up to you next season. Frankly, if I'm Piastri, though, I would just drive a harder bargain. I say, look, okay, if it comes down to it, if I'm in third and I don't think I can catch Max, and that's the important bit, well, then it doesn't matter to me. I'm already third now. If I don't catch him, there's no way I get second. But I could do a solid for the team and for my teammate that I can then cash in next season. That might be more valuable. If I was going to put it to him, I would put it to him that way, which is like, you gain nothing except for a podium.
You do gain something. I have to push back. You do gain.
No, you don't. You gain absolutely nothing. No, you don't gain in the drivers. You don't gain extra money.
I love it when you're wrong like this. Okay, good. Go on,
and
carry on.
so what am I missing then? What do you gain going into next season? Because already your teammate has demonstrated he can't pass you. He can't do this without your help, and he's going to owe you.
No, what he gains or what he loses is parity of world championships. So you go into next season with your teammate as world champion, or go into next season with your teammate on the same amount of championships as you, which is 0.
Aha. And here's where I think you're wrong. Because if you think you are better than the person who's about to win the championship, who would you rather beat next season? A world champion or your teammate?
Okay.
Who only is world champion because you helped him out. I'm just saying, there are levels to this.
Cristina, who's correct out of us two?
Oh my goodness. I hate this part. I feel like, can I just say that you guys, I think, are both varying degrees of wrong?
Oh, no.
Can I do that? Can I pop out and just kind of be like,
that's my usual experience in life. So
I thought she was going to say, you guys are both right with valid points. And she's not. She's like, you're both idiots.
You're both a little wrong.
Thanks, Canada.
Oh, sorry. One moment for the cat. Look, my big thing is that this past year, there were all of these moments that do come into play where both of them helped and hindered the other. So as much as we're going to have it come down to this final race in this moment of who helped out whom and, was it a gifted championship because you only won because of this other person? You can go and do that back throughout the entirety of the season. So yes, we are going to concentrate the most on whatever decision is made at this moment in time. That is not the only thing to consider when it comes to who helped whom throughout the season. So, looking forward to next year, would you rather be going up against a world champion or would you rather be going up against someone who's, on par with you? Doesn't matter. They're both starting at 0 on points, and they're going to have the exact same conversations with McLaren and with this leadership team to prove that they deserve to be the driver that is being backed. And that's the big thing, is it's not up to them. Team orders are a tool that they get to use. That is the reality of Formula One, and it is up to the drivers to convince their leadership team that they're the one that should be backed.
Agree. I just want to push back.
That's what they're dealing with.
I just want to clarify whether Norris's championship would be in any way tainted if he gets it by Piastri having to give up that place. I would say absolutely not, because Red Bull have proved they would not hesitate. Like they would fire a bazooka at Tsunoda if he is somehow in first place and Verstappen needs that first place. They'll do everything. They'll send the team out onto the track to divert him. So no, that's fine. Now, if McLaren decide to do team orders, that does not take a single thing away from either of their championships.
If it's close enough for that to work, then it's close enough for the result to have been within the margin of noise and not signal. But I mean, do we not forget Ferrari replacing Mass's gearbox at it Coda?
Interlagos. Oh God, why am I such a nerd? Why do I instantly know where that was?
But what I speak. But also, of this. Do you remember a time in Formula One, and this is just a random trot down history lane here, when team orders were frowned upon to the point where they had to use really complicated code words that were eventually too complicated for the drivers to remember. So mistakes would be made, like, Vettel would drive into the back of Webber, et cetera, and so on.
So the most famous one is Rob Smedley, Felipe.
Massa.
Yeah, Felipe.
Ferrari, yeah.
Fernando is faster than you. Confirm you understood the message. Fernando is faster than you. And so there was a big outcry against team orders. I think now people don't mind them if it's in favor. Like, they just understand that, of course, the number 2 driver is going to get out of the way of Max Verstappen. That seems accepted. The Papaya rules is a mess. And it's not a mess from the ethos of it. I fully respect that they've gone into it with the best of intentions. I think they went to it assuming that Norris would go and spank Piastri and it wouldn't be an issue, and that they've kind of been backed into this weird corner right now. But I think other teams will look at this as we don't want to get into the same media hole that Papaya Rules has got McLaren into. So I posted this online and people were saying, well, it's only a few events. It's only a handful of things, but you had the Singapore thing. You had repercussions. You can't touch each other. You had the Canadian Grand Prix where Lando Norris crashed into Piastri, and Piastri almost had like a gimme. He had like a gizzit. So, okay, cool. I've got a free card here, get out of jail free card, where I can basically cut across the entire field and at COTA, wipe everyone out. And instead of being punished for that, it's like, okay, well, now we're back at 0-0. It has not played well with media. It has not played well with fans. And I think other teams will look at that, not next season, not the season after, but going forward when they start making their recruiting decisions. I think they're going to do the Spanners methodology, which is have a Schumacher, have a Raikkonen, have a Schumacher, have a young, hot shoe, have a Schumacher and have a great test driver. That has got to be the model going forward. It is, you can't pretend that you've got this harmonious team environment in a championship battle, because every single time it's Rosberg and Hamilton or it's Papaya Rules. They can't do it anymore. That's more of a psychology thing, isn't it? So,
it's just easy clickbait for the media. But the reality is it's pretty straightforward. If you want to maximize your World Constructors Championship, you want the 2 best drivers driving for you, and you need them to be motivated, which means that you have to create, at least at the beginning of the season, a fairly level playing field. And the concept being simple, we as a team will definitely tell you have to do X or Y, and that's not going to work out for you. You need to live with that. That's rule number 1. But once we get past rule number 1, we'll basically try to keep it a level playing field. And anything that is a team mistake, if it's possible for us to make redress, we will. And if not, well, then, that's just the rub of racing. There is stuff involved in it that we really don't control, no matter how many spreadsheet columns our spreadsheets have.
All right. So let's get down to the actual maths that we're looking at. I spent a long time doing this and figuring it out in my head. And then someone shared a link with a BBC article that had just done it all for me. But I promise you, I did the maths by myself. So let's look at the championship connotations here. How up to speed do you think you guys are of like knowing? You're good? You're on it, Cristina?
Yeah.
Okay, let's start with the Verstappen fan's point of view. If you're a Verstappen fan, what are we looking for?
You basically don't need to worry about him winning the championship unless he's on the podium. Then you can start doing math.
Right.
If he's not in a podium position,
it's gone.
Then moment's over. Goodbye. The end. Yeah. He needs, the lowest he can finish is P3. If not, he's out.
And so, hang on. If he's P4, though, and Norris is out, they are equal on points. But,
and then it goes back to count back. And Norris has the most podiums this season.
Has the most. It goes to P2s, won't it? Because they will all.
It'll
have
go to P2s,
seven.
and Norris has an unassailable lead in P2s.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. So if none of them win, they all have 7 wins, right?
Correct.
So any countback goes to wins first, then P2s, and then P3s.
Down the ladder from there.
So any race winner of Abu Dhabi automatically has the most race wins.
Yes.
Correct.
And any tie goes down to P2. And if Lando Norris is involved in that, he has the most P2s by far.
Yes.
Okay, so Verstappen finishing 4th with a Lando DNF does not give him the title. So what about 3rd?
If he
That's a
finishes
podium.
P3.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
Max finishes 3rd. By my maths, I did get some of the Discord to check my maths. Norris must then be 9th or below, and Piastri must be 2nd or below, because there's a 4-point gap. There we go. There's a 4-point gap between Piastri and Verstappen.
Max.
Yeah. So if Verstappen has done enough in P3, oh my God, if Verstappen has done enough in P3 to see off Lando Norris, who finishes P9 or below, then Piastri needs to win the title there. So in that case, Verstappen's podium is negated by Piastri winning and Norris's DNF, and then Piastri is champion. And I think here, if Max finishes P2, then Norris must be P8 or lower for him to win, and Piastri just must not be the winning car. So with all of this, is there any other car that can be a spoiler in this top 4 based on what we know about Abu Dhabi and the current form of the teams? Cristina, can anyone else get involved in this?
Oh my goodness. I mean, George Russell does feel like the obvious one to select at the end of the day. He just does seem to, for one, get himself into these situations where he's kind of smack dab in the middle of it. And we kind of forget that he's there, despite the fact that he's like the P4 driver of the season. That is where he's finished the Drivers' Championship. And that seems to be the position he's in all the time, where you just kind of forget, but it is still quite good. Like, that is the story of his season. It's a P4 season. But like, him being in the crosshairs of all this just would be very dramatic and exciting.
So I love Russell. But if we're going to overlook start line chaos, which we've seen him go after Max when he's gotten a good launch. We saw Leclerc try to go around Verstappen the outside, and sort of Mercedes has swapped places with Ferrari. But if you're talking about people in race running who could potentially cause an issue, it's going to start with one of the 3 of them having an issue themselves. And all we got to do is go back to Qatar, where, Antonelli gave Norris a hard enough time passing that he didn't catch Sainz, who wound up taking away that podium that he was really hoping he was going to wind up with once they realized how badly wrong they'd gotten the strategy. And so, it's not beyond feasibility that you could see one of the faster cars getting in the way and, of that forward progress. That said, I don't think you're going to see them fight either driver, any of the drivers in the championship that hard. See my comment about no one wants to be Latifi or Glock. Yeah.
Well, obviously the Ferraris could be a factor in that front battle. We are laughing.
Leclerc.
We are having a good time. I'm sad. No, I'm sad. I don't know why I laugh so hard. I am sad about that.
We're going to get into strategy a little bit here. If you are any of the top 3, the worst possible thing is that a Leclerc or a Russell, having qualified 4th or 5th, gets a better launch and gets in front of you for the 3 to 5 laps is going to take you to pass them.
Yeah.
And you then have this gap that you cannot cross to the top 2. That's a not uncommon pattern. And it would be my biggest concern at the start, depending upon how qualifying turns out. Like, that would be the thing that you just want to try and shut the door on. Problem with shutting the door is it leads to contact.
So, we did Verstappen. What do we think for Piastri? Put yourself in the mind of a Piastri fan. You're sitting at home, it's hot, You're sweaty. You've got weird opinions. You had false hope handed to you with the first two batsmen going out in the second match of the Ashes, and then watched the England lower order just batter your bowlers around under the lights at the Gabba as if they were at home on home turf. You're sad. This is not going well. The English are beating you on your home soil, and you deserve it for being the worst cricket fans on the planet. But when you turn your attention to Piastri, I mean, with a Canadian and an American, this is all wasted. Canadian, put yourself in the mind of a Piastri fan. What are you looking for in terms of position and results?
Oh my goodness. I mean, listening to Piastri's interviews lately, seeing quotes from him this weekend, it feels like he at least has accepted that.
Really?
If you've listened to some of them, it does sound like it feels like he has stepped himself out of it.
Example,
which might
vibe?
just be, there's one quote I saw. My goodness, let's see if I could pull it back up quickly.
Yeah.
But there was one quote where they were talking to all three of the drivers and getting their thoughts about how this weekend could go. And Norris was of the opinion, you know what, I'm just going to go out there and do my best, and that'll be that. Verstappen has the infamous quote of like, it doesn't change my life, whatever. And Piastri's was a lot more dejected. It was very much saying, you know what, like, I'll do it, but it's a very big uphill battle. I will do my best, but. And so, you know, it's very understandable with the result that he would need to get, not just out of himself, but the result that you would need from other players, from Norris, from Verstappen doing poorly. It's understandable why he would sort of be in that headspace of, you know what, yeah, I go out and do my best, but realistically, I am out of it. And it's one of those things where you're going, do I get it? Yes, because realistically, he's not fully in this fight. So much has to go his way in order for him to actually potentially win this championship at this point.
Yeah.
And it's I mean, good for his fans for continuing to hold on to that little bit of hope. But like realistically,
I think it's
he
worse.
is very much on the edge.
I think it's worse than what you're saying. I
Really?
actually suspect that if you're McLaren, you've looked at that, you've thought long and hard, and you've gone, we really do need to back Lando Norris in this championship fight. Look at all the permutations. He has to finish first or second, doesn't he, to win the championship? Is that right?
Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah. And then like a bunch of other stuff has to go wrong. Piastri winning is like such a low percentage. I think all this stuff, if I don't care about the driver championship, it's for the birds. I'm just calling shenanigans. I'm calling lies. You want the driver championship. And the reason they've stopped them from talking to the press is because they don't want to have Piastri have to repeat the lie 100 times that he hasn't been asked to help Lando Norris.
All right. If I'm asked to help Lando Norris and I'm Piastri, and this is the thing, like you're telling me that he sounds dejected, and I'm like, they must have told him something other than we need you to help Lando if push comes to shove off a cliff with Max being involved. They have a history at this track of contact already. In turn one, no less, at the start. I've mentioned that multiple times. But look, if I'm Piastri, I'm living in the worst of worlds because my teammate's very likely to win, but I'm also living in the best of worlds. I have exactly one chance to win this championship. That's to finish on the podium in first position. And I happen to have a car capable of that. More importantly, if I'm winning the race, guess who's not winning the race? Max. It's not my problem. I can help my teammate most by winning this race, and it's all I have to do. If I don't win it, I might as well crash. I have nothing whatsoever to lose. He's literally the winner bin candidate right now for the whole race because he's already behind Max, has to beat him, so might as well give it your all there. And if he wins the race, there's no chance of Max taking it away from Lando. And it's just a straight up Lando and Max fight and where they finish as a result of that. So I'm baffled at the psychology of him feeling this way. Because when I look at it from that point of view, I'm like, the pressure's off, dude. You have to win and other things have to happen. And winning helps your team if you do that. And if you crash on the way to it, well, then you've not lost anything. No one's going to catch you from behind. It's like the best of all possible places to be as a driver. Have a winning car and I have only to win or crash. That's it. Nothing else in between matters.
I wonder if how dejected he sounded after Qatar was him kind of going, well, this was my chance to get back in it, and now it's gone. So I want to just say, like, I want to get Christina's like mini bullet so we can understand the track a little bit as well. And I've realized that we've gone too long to get in the listener feedback. So I do a little qualifying Spanners solo show, and we did a sprint one last week as well. And I think we got really positive feedback from those. I call them non-canon because if you don't listen to them, then you're not going to kind of miss out on any of our lore, I guess, if you like. So when I do the qualifying review, I imagine it'll only be like 20 minutes. I'm going to answer some of the listener feedback there and then. So we'll do that, and then we'll do our race review around 8 p.m. UK time, I think. I'll come back to you with a definite on all the social medias and stuff. But I just want people to look out for the people that will be helping Max Verstappen as well. So we've talked about the team orders with Lando Norris and Piastri, and I'm going to say this. I don't mind team orders. I don't mind people playing as a team. I didn't object to shenanigans at Abu Dhabi with Perez in 2021. I think that's all part of the team game. You're using tools available to you that are allowed in the sport. I didn't object to Lewis Hamilton backing up Nico Rosberg in 2016. I think those are interesting ways to really gamify the sport and just use all those tools available to you. And I think Red Bull, because they've been allowed two teams, they will use those two teams against Lando Norris. And I think the most effective time for them to do that is in qualifying. So I would imagine that during qualifying for the Abu Dhabi 2025 Grand Prix, there will permanently be, and I hope I'm not giving them ideas here, there will permanently be a Red Bull driver in front of Lando Norris disturbing his air and giving him dirty air for qualifying laps. I'm not saying I'd necessarily even object. I'm just saying it's something to look out for. Hey, Christina, Lee Mace, you do great TikToks. You've got kind of meh Instagram, but your TikToks are great. And the best part of those TikToks is the bullet. People need to subscribe to you on TikTok for the bullet alone, where you break down what people need to look out for when watching a Grand Prix. So what I would beg, for free, please give our wonderful Missed Apex listeners and viewers a little mini bullet of what we've got to look forward to for Abu Dhabi.
Absolutely. So this weekend, we have 16 turns, 2 DRS zones, and 58 laps that are going to be run on the 5.281 kilometer long Yas Marina circuit, with Pirelli bringing the C3s through C5s. And probably the most exciting thing for people to hear for this race weekend championship decider is that you can overtake at this track. There are 3 fantastic opportunities. End of turn 1, which is along that start straight. You also have the end of the 2 DRS zones, which is turn 6 and turn 9 being slightly banked, which is very fun. So overtaking opportunities. Last year, we saw both Leclerc and Hamilton do recovery drives from P16 and P19, respectively, to being on the podium and just next to it. So even if your championship contender does not qualify well, is there a chance of a recovery drive? Yes, absolutely. So we're going to look at that. We're going to see how it goes. And as far as general track characteristics, you have Sector 1, which is filled of high-speed corners. Sector 2, dominated by the 2 DRS zones on those long straights. And Sector 3, which is very technical and twisty. So a lot of characteristics for teams to be dealing with as far as their car setups go. They get to be finicky for one last time. And the DRS zones are back-to-back. So you lose a position, you might just get the chance to get it back almost immediately.
I like the fact that the fastest part of the track in terms of the straights tends to run into the slowest part of the track as far as the turns are concerned. And the only thing I would add to your unbelievably excellent analysis of the track, really the only thing I can add, is specifically last year's strategy was race was won by Norris on a one-stop lap 26, which was the outside of the predicted pit stop windows by Pirelli before the race. Might see them go a little bit longer. Tires are a bit better this year, so who knows. Other thing to consider is the number of slow speed turns, which you mentioned, compared to Qatar, had 1 turn below 100 kilometers an hour.
Yeah.
This has, depends on if you count the chicanes. If you count each part of the chicane as a separate turn, you got 1, 2, 3, 4, possibly about 5 turns below 100 kilometers an hour.
Lots of braking. Heavy braking.
This should be advantage Norris, advantage McLaren.
Absolutely.
I'm nervous.
And you have the dramatic look of it being at sunset. How can you
Yes.
beat that? A cooling track, more lockups,
Started the trend
higher
they
chance of
did.
understeer. Like, it's a cool one.
I feel like Tina's been paid by Abu Dhabi and F1 to come on here and be an apologist for like. So, and I'm sitting there, she's wrong, right? But she just says it so well, and then in like little weird French things. By the way she says Leclerc is just because she's like a French speaker. You're not just you're not being like a pick me about that.
I'm a little pretentious, but the acceptable amount for someone who has a film degree.
Okay, no, that's good. Seriously, go and follow Tina on TikTok by clicking the links in the show notes below. Go and follow Matt as well. He's got the odd worthwhile contribution. I think you're most busy on Blue Sky at the moment, so go and follow Matt over there.
When I'm saying things, it tends to be there. Yeah.
And so all the links for our social media is there. Just click the button and that will go straight to our profile pages. I'm still very active on X, as much as everybody is saying, oh yeah, X is dead or whatever. I'm an attention seeker, so I just go where people are paying attention to me. And oh my goodness, I've had a few tweets on there where I've just said what I reckon. And as soon as it gets out of your little ecosystem, your little bubble of followers who know what you like, oh my God, it goes mad. Check out my X feed just to see the replies I have had to some of my tweets that have gone kind of semi-blown up. But go and follow us on Instagram, on TikTok, and most importantly of all, subscribe to us. If you're a YouTube viewer, subscribe. And if you're a podcast listener, please, please, please subscribe to it on your podcast app so that it downloads as soon as we release it. That really, really helps our visibility. And tell a few friends before we get to the finale of 2025 that Missed Apex is a fairly fun, fine place to hang out and be part of the community. You can join our Patreon by going to patreon.com/Missed Apex. For the last 2 seasons, we have had no drop-off in patrons over the winter. And you do not know, as freelancers, how unbelievably, amazingly heartwarming that is. In fact, over the last 2 winters, we have had an increase in patrons, and we do weekly shows all throughout the winter as well. So you can just have a little tick over of F1 content. And in fact, we enjoy it much more because you are not restricted by what's going on in the F1 season. And we have a lot of fun there. So come and hunker down. Be part of the Missed Apex podcast winter patron crew, patreon.com/Missed Apex. We'll see you next for a qualifying reaction and then a race review. We've got Van Gene joining me and Matt for that race review. And until we see you next, work hard, be kind, and have fun. This was Missed Apex Podcast. I'm actually bizarrely nervous about this race.
It's anxiety-provoking.
It really is. There is not enough popcorn in the world for this Grand Prix. And by popcorn, I mean vodka and rum.